What screams, "We are not going to last long" for couples? The way they speak to each other when they're not alone. I noticed this after my divorce and I started dating again. Because you speak to these new people with a lot of respect and kindness. Then we'd get around married couples and they'd say awful things to each other in nasty, snappy tones, and it was jarring. Fast forward 10 years and all those couples I noticed doing that are divorced now. I know a couple like this. They bicker over every single thing and neither backs down. It's so uncomfortable. I can't imagine the fights behind closed doors when this is just freely around friends. When both make the atmosphere so uncomfortable when you are in their house. Passive-aggressive jabs they think you wouldn't notice, but you could cut the tension with a knife like Michael and Jan's dinner party. That is a $200 plasma TV you just killed. Good luck paying me back on your $0 a year salary plus benefits, babe. Walking on eggshells around your partner in terms of what you can and can't say. If you feel you can't disagree with your partner and or voice your opinion without it turning into an argument, that can be not going to last several years too long. If they have strongly conflicted plans for their future, either means they'll break up eventually or one or both of them will end up in an unhappy compromise. Yet, do not get married if one of you wants kids and the other doesn't. It is a whole mess. I have an aunt and uncle who I love dearly. He wanted kids badly and she did not. They almost divorced over it, but eventually worked through it. Traveled the world. Had beautiful properties, the whole 9 yards. Now she is in her 60s, and every time she drinks she talks about how she should have had kids, and my uncle gets this look on his face that is difficult to describe, but it's not good. Breaking up every few minutes and then back together again, especially in the first couple months. Oof, yeah. Imagine going for 5 years, all of that. My best friend's situation. A recent personal experience I witnessed. The entire immediate family of one side of a wedding said it was a bad idea, and less than a month into the marriage one of them stayed at their mom's house for the night because they were fighting. Also, they got engaged as a result of a failed breakup attempt. How on earth do you fuck up dumping someone so severely that you accidentally end up marrying them? I had a friend that did this. He kept dumping her, and the last time, she just told him she had enough. The next day he came back begging for her and swearing that he loved her more than anything in the world, and she told him to prove it. So he proposed. She didn't know what to do, so she said yes, and it went downhill from there. Reminds me of a bit from comedian Taylor Thompson. I had this one guy I was dating on and off again for like 4 years. We'd get together, we'd break up over and over. I was the girl he couldn't take home to meet his parents. What was he gonna say at that point? Like, "Mom, Dad, this is the lesson I can't seem to learn. Don't get attached." If one or both of the people are controlling over the other, when the dynamic is super obvious to outsiders early on, that's a bad sign. Whatever is happening on the outside is always worse on the inside. I know a couple where the woman will just berate her man publicly. She'll talk to him like he's an actual child. She tells him how much he's allowed to do certain things, but twists it so it doesn't look as bad. It's as if she genuinely thinks he's mentally disabled or something, except she only does it when she's being controlling. For example, she hates when he plays video games. She thinks it's immature and a waste of time that could be spent hanging out with her or being productive. She thinks it's embarrassing that he plays video games, so he has to sneak around to play video games at other people's houses so that he can play it off as if it's the other person's fault that he was playing. Like, "Oh, Mike wanted to play and I just couldn't say no at his house." Now I have seen this couple having a semi-private fight. They're very loud and literally go one room away from their guests to have fights. This woman will berate the way he talks during fights and literally mock him to his face in a baby voice like, "Nah, I'm a grown man and I still play video games," instead of actually making real commentary on the argument. This breaks his spirit and he ends up just exhausting during the fight and succumbing to whatever she wants. And the things she wants are super inconsistent. so he can't win there either. The public thinks she doesn't like video games and looks down on him for it, but privately she's completely broken this guy's spirit and he can't escape the cycle due to constant emotional exhaustion. And that's not even true privacy. That's when I'm in another room. God only knows how bad it is when they're completely alone together. I hear some of it because this guy has come to my house when she kicks him out for the night, and he vents to me while we play hours of video games. Of course, lol. I've changed a few minor details for privacy because I wanted to give a thorough example. This is shockingly common. I know like 8 people who have at one point been in a relationship like this. Whatever abusive behavior is seen publicly is always worse behind closed doors. Ah, that makes me sad. Hopefully he finds the strength to cut ties with her. Yeah, I've told him blatantly that he should leave her. He always says things along the lines of "you're right," but then ends up back with her within a few days. They've been together for so long I think it's a sunk cost situation for him. I am doing everything I can by being a place he can crash for the night and voicing my opinions. We've tried to talk to the woman before too, but that ends up just making the guy's life harder. Anyone who's reading this and thinks it sounds familiar, if 1 or 2 friends say you're so sucks, maybe it's a fluke. If all your friends say they suck, or they think you might be in an abusive relationship, consider how you can't see it as clearly through your rose-tinted glasses. Where are you? Hanging out with my cousins? Really? BC me RN. My friend had to do this all the time with his lady. They are split now, but every time he'd get to my place to just sit around and watch movies or whatever, he'd have to do a 360 video of where he was. After my ex and I broke up, she told me that she couldn't find a notebook of hers, and that if I found it in my stuff to please throw it away. It was her personal thoughts and weren't meant to be read by anyone else. I told her I wouldn't read it, and I meant it. I had no intention on violating her request. A year later, I was going through a box and found a notebook I didn't recognize and had long forgotten my pledge to my ex. I just thought, "What's this?" and opened it up. By the time I realized it was the notebook she asked about, I already had the gist of it. It wasn't a diary. She had been spying on me and journaling all her findings. A page would read like, 4:55 p.m. says he has to work late, 6 p.m. his office light is on. So are Michelle's and Jennifer's, but Jennifer's car isn't there. 7:30 p.m. his car is still there. Office light is on. Michelle's car is still in the parking lot. 12:30 p.m. his car is gone for lunch. So is Tina's. Neither at parents' condo. She was good at it too. Never once did I catch her, or even caught a glimpse of what I thought might be her car. Never did I come home unexpectedly and find her not home. Nothing. But she was regularly acting as a PI, thinking I was banging every girl I worked with. And it thanks for the gold. I knew I went through all that shit for something. Damn, that's a lot of commitment and effort. Misplaced effort. How did she have the time to be that meticulous? Damn, I'd have gotten bored by the first half of the first day. She had time because she didn't, or maybe wouldn't work because she was depressed. So yeah, she was spying on me while I was working to support us both. Tales like these make me think all the ways people completely drain themselves of mental energy that could be used to get out of the situation that leads them to adopt that behavior in the first place. It's just sad. All that effort just wasted for nothing. Sad is the right word. That's how I felt when I found it. I am angry at her for some of the things she did after the breakup, but mostly I am just sad for her, and I hope she found a way to get healthy. When he smashes her face in the cake at the wedding and she hates it, I did the manly thing and asked my wife. She said no. She was spending hours doing makeup and didn't want to ruin it. So instead I gave her a tiny forkful to eat, and it was great. If all disagreements end in arguments, me and my partner disagree about a lot of stuff, but we can talk, discuss, and even sometimes agree with the other person's side. It'd be weird if you saw eye to eye on 100% of stuff too. Seeing eye to eye 100% of the time usually means that one person is just not voicing their opinion, which is a recipe for disaster. Very true. This reminds me of a video Mark Manson posted where said he the following: saying no is the fundamental basis of boundaries in relationships. If you want to have a healthy marriage, you need to be able to say no to each other. Tell your partner what you don't like or what your values are, and be willing to disappoint the other person and trust that they are going to stick with you. If you're never willing to disappoint your partner, then you never actually develop trust for them. You never actually know if they're going to stick with you when shit hits the fan. This is why couples that never fight eventually end up in a very toxic place. I was at a party one time and there was a marriage counselor there that had been working for 20-something years in couples counseling. I asked her what the number one sign was that the couple wasn't going to make it. Without hesitating, she said, if one person shows contempt for the other's feelings, it's over. This is a really well-documented one. Contempt is a dead giveaway. The moment you start sneering or using incredulous sarcasm, you should consider it to be a red alert. My wife and I are doing fine these days, but a few of our worst fights have contained contempt. And fortunately, because we'd heard this guidance before, we realized we were in very dangerous territory and needed to take a really hard look at the root causes of what was pissing us off at each other. Anger can be a natural reaction, as long as it doesn't come with abuse. Contempt, however, is like black mold. Having a kid to fix their relationship. Yes, like putting a dirty band-aid over an amputated leg. Being a kid with divorced parents is bad, but being a kid with parents that should be divorced but aren't is way worse. In my experience, contempt/mockery, lack of communication/respect/empathy for the other person glue babies having a wedding as opposed to making a marriage with the exception of children. Consistently and habitually prioritizing others over theirs. So then there's the things that for me are default deal breakers. Any kind of abuse, cheating, financial dishonesty, violence, gaslighting. This criteria also applies to their treatment of my children where applicable. Edit. Since I don't seem to have been clear enough about what I meant regarding prioritizing the children, what I actually meant was my children are the only people I would ever drop everything and run for over my partner. In day-to-day life, of course, your relationship with your partner is equally important. Edit 2. A glue baby is having a baby in an attempt to save a relationship. Thank you for staying with us all this time. If you enjoyed the video, please support us by clicking the like button and subscribing to our channel. Your comments and suggestions are always welcome. See you in the next video.